Welcome back, everybody. Berserker Part 2. Previously, in Part 1, we spoke about Berserksgänger, which is the term used by Snorri of someone going berserk, or the act of going berserk. To understand this term, there is another aspect of warfare that has been understood by soldiers of a higher caliber since the dawn of time. What this is the invisible battlefield. Now, what is the invisible battlefield? The invisible battlefield are the forces and the energies that are competing above the combat, where we have a direct correlation to the Berserkir and the shamanistic practitioners in service on either side of the battle. For a thorough workup on the Berserkir or the Valkyrie, I highly recommend watching a 4-part series that was done by Realm of Runes, because it's important to understand the Berserkir or the Valkyrie as they were originally depicted, how they were depicted prior to things getting messed with, later on depictions, things like that. So I highly recommend it. In the book The Viking Way by Neil Price, he probably said it best when he stated that perhaps some of the greatest warriors do not take the field at all, but remain behind in their tents, their minds nevertheless focused on the combat. As huge animals, their spirit forms wade through the battle, wreaking havoc. Here we have a direct correlation to at least 2 soul parts in Norse spiritual practice. One would be the hugr, or the mind, the thought, think hugin, right? The next would be the filia, whose health, well-being, and characteristics are intimately tied to that of the owner. Now, Benita Summers discusses what I'm going to talk about in the third. So the third, in my opinion, would be Hamingja. So Hamingja is luck, but not in the way that we think of luck modern day. So Benita Summers states that luck is a quality inherent in the man and his lineage, a part of his personality similar to strength, intelligence, or skill with weaponry. Now we have a perfect example of this, where it resides in the Hrolf's Saga Kraka, where Bodvar Bjarki was apparently missing from the battlefield. So this battle was between the armies of Hrolfr and Skuld, yet there was a large bear on the field that was able to vanquish more enemies with its paw than 5 of the king's best champions, and it seemed impervious to blows and missiles. We talked about this link with Berserkir in Part 1. So Bodvar was searched for and found to be alone in the king's tent. He reluctantly was brought back to the battle, and upon agreeing to go, he was quoted as saying, "In truth, I can tell you that in many ways I can now offer the king far less support than before you woke me." Once Bodvar enters the fray, the bear disappears. Another instance we have is in the Heraldskarvedi, where there is a reference to Berserker being drinkers of the corpse sea, or the stuff that runs through our veins. This could be an embellishment or an instance of embellishment, but it could also be a link to the shamanic practice of Berserksgänger, or going berserk. Now, not to be outdone are the individuals that influence the battle, such as the Volur, or the Seidkoner, or the Seidmaður, attempting to gain favor with the Valkyrir, who guide the weapons of those in the thick of it. And they choose who wins and who loses. They choose who comes off of the battlefield, and they choose who has to stay on the battlefield in a less than alive capacity. So if this sounds far-fetched to you, I encourage you to speak to a veteran, where there was a situation or an event that occurred where themselves or somebody else walked away from a situation or an event that they shouldn't have, right? So that as if something intervened, as though there was a guiding hand over their actions or the events that transpired. This happens to this day. Ask a veteran. With all that being said, Berserker? Being shamanistic warriors? Well, were they guided by a hand of shamanism, where we take into account the Norns, or the Nornir and the Valkyrir? I encourage you to take a look at the sources that I put in here, and hopefully you find some of your own. So more to come, and I hope you stick around, because there is going to be a part 3. Drink water, everybody.